Good evening, everybody. Thanks for joining us. This is the call to order for the City of Aspen City Council regular meeting for October 22nd, 2024. Could we please have a roll call for attendance?
Councilor Doyle.
Here.
Councilor Coop.
Here.
Councilor Hollenstein.
Here.
Councilor Rose.
Here.
Mayor Tory.
Here as well. No scheduled public appearances. That we can get right to citizens and petitions. This is an opportunity for citizens to address council on issues not scheduled for a public hearing. We do ask that you limit your comments to about 3 minutes, that everybody can have a fair and equal opportunity. Public that wishes to speak this evening. I'll start with Rachel.
Thank you, Mayor Tory and Council, for your time this evening. I've been out of town visiting a sick relative for a while, so I'm a little behind the curve. I just wanted to really thank you for starting the environmental impact statement process through NEPA. I don't know if it's been fueled or money's been allocated to begin scoping meetings or not, but I do want to really compliment you on making that move. And that really also brings me to the upcoming Thursday EOTC meeting, which I have jury duty that day, and unless it's canceled Wednesday night, I might not make that. Good for you guys. But there's 45 minutes on the agenda for that item, and I think it really discusses a much larger discussion about future processes and how Snowmass Village, the county, the ski company, RAFTA, all agencies at the airport business centers, district, ambulance district, are able to become involved and offer their comments in a public setting for the solutions. I also, I'm glad to see other ideas like this shot come forward and get the type of honest evaluation against other alternatives. And I could pass this around, but I did do a little GIS map of the entrance. And what we haven't read are all the communities that will either have to slingshot through the roundabout in order to enter town on a split shot design, or that there will be a coming through the west end down to the traffic light by the old Sardi House, or the traffic light. But all traffic from McLean Flats and Woody Creek and Cemetery will have to go out to come back in such a way. And of course, there is no wildlife crossing, and the highway kind of leaves those two neighborhoods cut in half. And this is the type of interactive map I think you should be producing for your citizens to take a look at which alternatives have which problems and which answers to them. And sorry, the tape is sticking. I'm going to flip this over so that you can see it as well. But if you do something like the preferred alternative, that's not the case for any of that traffic, but there's other impacts to other people. And so I'm really just hoping we get to a point where we have a very interactive, open, and straightforward process, that we start talking about the number of people coming into town on buses, not just the number of bus routes that use the Cat Creek Bridge, and what our future workforce demands are going to be, given the retirement of very many free market homeowners who have previously been our workforce in the mid and lower valley. So thank you very much for your time, and I look forward to announcements about how and when that process starts.
Thanks, Rachel. Just for clarification, right now, I've been looking at, and other council members have seen a modified split shot that doesn't require slingshotting around the roundabout from Cemetery Lane. So. Okay.
Well, again, the sooner we can get all these out on the table for all the public to look at, not in 3 minutes bites. These should be a type of meetings that we've held at the Limelight, that people can talk for 10, 15 minutes, write comments down, and really goes out to the public the way we did actually when we were reintroducing the 98 record of decision. Thank you. I appreciate it.
Thank you. Other members of the public for comment this evening?
I'm Frank Stuckins. I've been in the city of Aspen for, 38 years. And I'm pleased to be able to read in the paper a couple weeks back that the City Council expressed unanimous support for recent design changes at the Armory. Less restaurant intensive, a visitor center, stuff like that. And it looks like one of the restaurants is moving upstairs. That's kind of a bar too. I'm continuing to pursue the idea of a cannabis consumption lounge, where we used to be able to gather at local spots, and we still do at times, like the J Bar, kind of out of reach now for a lot of people, Annie's, New York, Pizza, stuff like that, where we talk about all kinds of things, like forum for discussion. I imagine the space being like a library, where we could have all kinds of resources and discussions, some kinds of events, cannabis consumption, and then expand on ideas like we're always talking about climate change and having some kind of impact on the bigger picture. So, and we could gather on skis too, but I think the lounge is a pretty good idea. I'm pursuing it. There's a bill for an act to create a marijuana consumption club license, and I think they're doing one in Denver. But I'd like to see it done here. I think it'd be a great source of tax revenue. I changed my licensing from a nonprofit to a for-profit for Green Cuisine, which is a catering operation, but I would like to connect that to a marijuana-infused kitchen. To be able to do that, but the bill states that we could get all the cannabis, edibles, whatever, from suppliers like that are supplying our retail establishments. I know that some of the cannabis dispensaries aren't doing too great, but a couple of them are, and I would like to be able to concentrate and put that money back into Aspen. So I have the license application, and I've got all the direction to be able to put this up. I guess it has to go for a vote to be able to license this kind of business for the city. And, you know, that's going to take some time. As Ward said, this might take a couple years anyway to the armory finished and up to what we want it to be. I applaud CCY Architects. I think that was really cool that they changed this, the armory sign to be a little less restaurant, because we have lots of restaurants in Aspen. I guess that's all I need to say. I'm getting better at expressing myself here in this room. Thanks, Tori, John, everyone on City Council, and I think we can make this happen if we have support, and it'll be something really cool that we could do here. Okay, thanks so much.
Tom?
Mr. Mayor, Council, Town Landing, a couple of weeks ago, bringing the information as far as the federal court rules that water fluoridation poses an unreasonable risk. And again, just wanted to quote from the city's mission statement, amongst to steward the natural environment and support a healthy and sustainable community for the benefit of future generations. And from the overview of the Aspen City Council, that the Aspen Dream, the ideal of a community nourishing mind, body, and spirit. So I think that this fluoride issue brings to the table here as far as staying congruent with what those mission statements are and the overview. I understand I've spoken with different staff since a couple weeks ago that there is starting to be some movement as to reviewing the water quality and the fluoride issue, and I appreciate that. However, I also know that there are other communities across the country who have taken the initiative and have chosen to err on the side of caution, since this fluoride is an unreasonable risk and has been proven to be that, as I've been stating for 30 years, because this ruling is that it takes fluoride out of the dental realm and puts it into a neurotoxic realm. And so there are communities across the country who have chosen to take fluoride out right now and then to go through a review of what the issues are and to err on the side of caution with the option of reinstalling or put fluoride back in the water if that decision is made. In the meantime, I think that every day that is delayed from taking fluoride out of water continue to pose an unreasonable risk to children and the rest of the community. So I know there's a well or 3 wells, I think, that we're looking. Again, the natural occurring fluoride is very different from the fluoride that's being put into it, and it says in the mission statement, the natural environment is what it says in the Aspen City Council mission statement, and I would encourage you to stay current with that. Thank you very much.
Thank you, Doc. Mike?
Councilors, Mayor Tory, thank you for the time to make some comment. I'm Mike Richard. I'm with the Fort Mountain Bike Association. And Sam, thanks for our emails, and more thanks for our call recently. I'm here today to make a comment on the Aspen Ski Trail project at Ralt Thomas Open Space. Thanks for taking time to review this project on site back in June. That was a joint meeting of Open Space and Trails Board. The Open Space and Trails Board followed up meeting the following month in July, voting to implement the project in 2025 with the condition that RFMEA, Fort Mountain Bike Association, would bring matching funds to the project. A draft donor agreement is in review to fulfill that condition. As you guys all discussed at the early last week, the Department has proposed to include funding for the project in the 2025 budget. However, we do understand the concerns remain, especially from some council members here. The primary topic of concern discussed at that budget workshop last Monday was whether this is the right location for the project, with some councilors asking if this project could be undertaken by the Aspen Skiing Company on their private instead. There was no discussion regarding conclusions of the city's wildlife assessment conducted for this area. There was no discussion regarding the project cost. Can share with you that RFMBA remains in strong communication with the skiing company, with the planning department and other staff, and there really is no analogous opportunity for a skills trail project at the base of Highlands, at the base of Tyhack, or at Panda Peak at Main Buttermilk. Perhaps a different project could work there one day, but not the same project that we're talking about today. So I am here to continue to advocate for this project. As we've discussed in detail with staff and at multiple OSD board meetings over the past several years, and again during that June site visit, compared to all other potential locations, this project's location, along with its site-specific design, customized to work only on this site, is visible and has the most favorable attributes for a project type. We've gone through many details in those OSD board meetings to ensure that that's the case. Looking back, in 2021, community members participated in a city process through public meetings and public survey. That led to a Meralt Open Space Management Plan, including the potential for a bike park in this specific location. Following up on that update, in 2022, the OST board directed staff to include the design of this project as a priority focus of work in the following year. That led to 2023, when RFMBA partnered with city staff, expending our donors funding to work with a professional trail design firm to develop an appropriate and high-quality design for the project. with feedback from city staff and from the OSD board during those OSD board meetings, the design evolved to best work at this location. In addition to the public comments given in support of the project during those OST board meetings, a public survey was conducted by the city in the fall of 2023. 111 registered participants. The response to 2 final questions summarized the survey's outcome. Do you think these new trails would enhance you or your family's outdoor experience? 84% responded yes. Do you think these new trails would benefit the Aspen community? 85% responded yes. So, with such overwhelming support from the community and from our FMBS network, we will seek to move this project forward in the future, and we do appreciate the city's investment and support for this project when that time comes. Thanks so much for listening today. Appreciate it.
Bill, you have a question?
Yes, please. And my quick question for you before you go, if you don't mind. Have you gotten any clarity on why other locations might not work? You touched upon that in your statement today. Are any sort of layman qualifiers that you could give us about why a similar project wouldn't work at Buttermilk or Tyack, like you mentioned?
So we've looked at the terrain and the topography, and that's number one, right? You need the right pitch. So where this project is designed, we have both cross slope for draining water, and we have a 6% grade from top to bottom, which is the ideal for these types of trails. So that's the starting point. For instance, the base of Tyack, north-facing ski slope, steeper grades, really not much room there. Panda Peak, lower grades, certainly we could have ski beaches there. It would be a very different project if that were to come to pass. Highland constrained, steeper grades very, very soon from the lift side. It also would become a very different project with different aims and goals if the skiing company were to lead the charge. We'd be happy to partner in that case and welcome the city to partner as well, as was discussed. So those are the main concerns. It starts with topography. The next is location. This project is located, situated very nicely with paved paths. We already have a flow of bicycles happening to and from the schools especially. This is really a youth-oriented project. Not that there won't be adults who want to go and sharpen their skills. I myself would, but I don't think that I would spend that much time there compared to a younger one learning something new.
Super helpful. Thank you so much.
Thank you.
Are there members of the public for public comment this evening? Yes, come on right up.
I brought some folders with some information, and if you pass them around, you can either look at today or another day. So would you like to?
If you, yeah, you can just start them at that end right over there. The clerk is not here, but Jim will help you out.
How many do we need? 4, 5. Good, great. Okay, that's fine. Sorry. No, that's it. Thank you. So thanks for taking the time to listen today. This is my first time here. I have health concern that I talked to a couple Tori about prior at Trekot.
If you would please state your name for the
My name
record.
is Menzies, artist here in Aspen. I've lived here for the last 10 years. So I have ended Scott 6 years ago in June, and shortly thereafter I reported some leaking out of my skylight, and it was very clear that it was a leak. There was black stuff dripping from. Sorry about my voice. I've got chronic bronchitis, so I have a little hard time talking right now. But so once we moved in, there was brown stuff dripping from the sky down, and to me it was clearly a leak. And they had told me that it was just a humidity in trust Scott, and that it's going on in all the units, not to worry about it. They came in, they wiped off the dripping down the ceiling, and anyway, this proceeded over them telling me that it was just a humidity problem, needed a dehumidifier. That my house had 98% humidity in it, which is a little ridiculous considering we live in Aspen here on 90% humidity. However, anyway, conditions persisted and nothing was done about it. So fast forward until this August, I had a friend over who had issues with leaks and black mold. Ended up pulling the paint. I literally had the paint peeling off the wall. It was right. I got photos of it. I mean, it's clearly that no one wanted to address. However, we peeled off the stuff, dug into the sheetrock, and exposed toxic black mold. It's called Stereobacterus. It's one of the 10th most deadliest molds there is. So, anyway, I've been sick for almost since I moved in. My voice started changing. I've got chronic bronchitis. I can't walk up a flight of stairs. I don't hike anymore. I barely want to do anything. It's affected my health tremendously. And my biggest concern right now is the way that they're handling the mold situation. So, from what I've researched, they've had 2 different people in my home that have given me complete different answers about how I should handle my items and what's to clean and make sure that it's a healthy environment to live in. One said everything needed to be dry cleaned, that you had to throw everything away. The other one told me that you can throw it in the dryer and it'll just get rid of the mold spores. But within this packet, I have a from EPA that says that the mold cannot be, it can be killed, but it cannot be, you have to get rid of it to get rid of the mold. You have to actually throw stuff away. You can't, mold can be killed, but it stays within your items. And if the conditions persist, they come alive again, for the most part. So anything that you have that's over an inch thick, they recommend you should definitely throw away or have it dry cleaned, because I'm not sure how to explain it to you, but basically, it's like there's 250,000 mold spores on the tip of a needle. So they penetrate everything. I mean, even if they're not alive, you still lynch them in your home, and it causes respiratory issues. Make it short, my concern right now is that I've heard them say what needs to be done to resolve the issue, which is take everything out, clean the space, and bring everything back in, which they refuse to do. I've been in my home, I've taken videos, they've got everything exposed, there's mold spores, they haven't cleaned the drain, they've created a clean space and moved things into that without even cleaning the space. They started moving things in and they're vacuuming and cleaning that space while my other items are in there. They know what they need to do, and they're not doing it. Okay, I've got photos in here if you want to go through them, which I don't know how much time we have, so please let me know. You can see where they've ripped the ceiling out, and the water dripping down all the way to the side of the building. It goes all the way from the skylight to the front window. And so it is definitely dripping down the sidewalls too. And HomeSafe, if you open the packet, HomeSafe I've spent over $5,000 getting this done on my own money. Okay? And Trust went in and did their own inspection, said there was mold after I'd already done mine. I wanted to go in the next day and just it up, which I had to pay to get this done to prevent them from doing so. But if you go to HomeSafe and spend here.
Renee, we'll go through these. I want us to be as effective as we can for you.
I know, and I'm sorry, I'm not used to doing this,
So
please.
you're in Truscott.
Yes.
Truscott is an APSHA-managed property.
Exactly.
And we have a director here in the room, asked him to be here, present with you. Have you had contact with somebody at APSHA?
I have. I've been in contact with Julie, who said it was a safe place for me to live and live while remediation was being.
Okay. There's a direction from here. Is this an item for the APSHA board to get involved in? Should she sit with Matthew for a moment? What are the steps to address her concerns? I think at this time she's not in her home, and there is some work being done. So she's in the middle of this. What can we do for next steps to assist her?
Sure, remediation, and Matthew can provide details of where that process is at. So I do believe that we've been in the unit. There's maybe some disagreement on the extent of the situation between the two parties as well. This isn't really an APSHA board item because they are APSHA's functioning property manager for the city of Aspen. And however, I don't believe that this isn't exhausted with our property manager. But certainly Matthew's here as well if you have questions about specific remediation activity or APSHA's response as a property manager.
One other thing I want to mention that is a concern to me that the APSHA or the maintenance people in Truscott around telling, which that sounds very tough to people, that I'm boiling pots of hot water to cause a problem. Literally, it's been two different people. It's not just one. They're even telling the cleanup people that I'm doing crazy stuff. You know, the whole thing is I know that they moved someone out of APSHA in Truscott with the same issues, knew it was mold. And so they're telling that right next door in 318 in our unit, I have the exact same issues. They're telling them it's a humidity problem. It's not. There's huge concern, not just for myself. I've been through enough, 4 years of emergency rooms going, figure out what's wrong with me. However, it's an issue because they're covering it up. They're not willing to do what it needs to take and investigate the other units as well. You know, and I know for a fact they moved someone else out with the same issues that's mold.
Okay. Council, my suggestion is that we have, and then we request some information, and get on the situation and find out where it's at.
And one other thing, I have a medical test that I had to spend another $1,500 to get done 4 times the regular level, even after moving there, that they should be. 4 times what it should be allowed in a normal human being's body on 2 different molds. One double, the other's 4 times.
Question from Bill?
Yes, thank you. I'd like to request weekly updates on the status of this effort each Friday so that we just understand what's going on. If anyone has further comments or questions, have an opportunity to ask them then.
Great, thank you.
Any other questions from council members? Yep, Ward?
Yeah, I'd like to know if Matthew could perhaps report back to us on the condition of the Truscott units. And if there are questions, there's no agreement on the mold situation to consider a third-party assessment. But I think at this point it's in the administrative side of the APSHA to address this.
So to clarify, there has been assessments. I'm happy to have Matthew prepared this evening, should the council have direction from 3 of you, if we need to provide week updates on repairs in a single unit. A little bit further than council typically requested, I would need majority direction. Thank you.
Thanks.
I'm comfortable with report in from APSHA to keep it at the APSHA level.
Same. Yeah, an APSHA report works for me. And Renee, if you could send an email form via email, I always find it easier to get to the bottom of some of this stuff. As much as I appreciate you coming up and doing this in person.
No, I know, and I've got all the things on a slide, and I can send a written test on. And I'm really concerned that they're not taking care of it to put me back in a safe environment or anyone else in the area. You know, so thank you for your time. I appreciate it.
Thank you so much.
Thank you.
Thanks for coming in. Matthew, if you have a moment, you could, send for Nate, that'd be great. If we could ask our city manager to get some report back from Hapshell, so that'd be great. Other members of the public for public comment this evening? Tony?
Good evening, everyone. For the record, my name is Tia Kronenberg, and I wanted to support what Rachel brought forward during her public comments about how she felt on the EOTC agenda, that there's really not enough meat in the agenda, enough time to discuss certain things. That was my intent tonight, was that to give you a heads up. You're having the elected officials transportation committee meeting on Thursday, and your ITA states that elected officials transportation committee is to meet on a regular basis. The next meeting scheduled after Thursday is 1 year, so that's 1 year away. Right now, I think the biggest issue facing Aspen, Snowmass, and Pickens County is the transportation corridor between the entrance to Aspen all the way to Brush Creek and then up to Snowmass. Down Valley, as most of you know, that's its own animal speak, where there's a huge amount of cars. Right now, downtown Basalt, in the afternoons, you can't get from the two lights into downtown. It's stopped traffic back to back. But getting back to the elected officials transportation committee, that committee was formed as an opportunity for all three jurisdictions to get together and collectively come up with ideas on how to solve transportation issues. Right now, you have the Pickens County Airport Light Plan that's not yet been approved by the FAA, and then you also have the Lumberyard Project. When I attended the last Pickens County Commissioner meeting, it was stated that the city and Pickens County are on two different timelines. The city is moving fast forward on the Lumberyard Housing Project, and Pickens County's hands are tied. They can't do anything until they get the approvals in the FAA, and they don't know what the approvals are going to be at the FAA. One of the suggestions, and I know this is probably not going to go over well with Aspen City Council, is if Aspen City Council could slow down the Lumberyard project so that you could coordinate with the airport layout plan to come up with a feasible transportation plan. Some of the things that I was looking forward to seeing on the agenda was all three jurisdictions. I asked if you could ask CDOT for emergency order to open up the 2 lanes coming out of the roundabout for life and safety issues. I don't see that on the agenda, and I don't see any time for discussion. In 3 minutes, you really can't discuss anything, much less bring it forward. Another thing that I was hoping to have brought forward was to have the entire transportation corridor looked at, with all three entities getting solutions or recommendations. That's not on the agenda. The way the agenda is right now, it's another whole year out. So I would like, if we can, for the Aspen City Council to take the lead, and if we can have more meetings than just an annual one. As I said, the IGA says regular meetings is like your city council meetings. It's on a regularly scheduled basis. And just with that, as I said, I'm a little disappointed in the agenda because the only thing we have on the agenda is Castle Creek Bridge, not the rest of the corridor. So that means everyone's going to be stuck in traffic for the next year. And then if you move ahead with the Lumberyard project and we don't have any solutions, and what I know my platform for running for Pickens County Commissioner is Highway 82. A lot of suggestions have come forward. One of the most telling is to shut down the Burlington light, because that's where the real bottleneck works. Another suggestion would be to have roundabouts at the Airport Business Center and another one at Owl Creek. And so when I bring it forward, as I said, in 3 minutes, then
Well, you just did it here, so you can do it again on Thursday. Just so you know, Tony, the agenda handed to us by the county. It was prepared by the county. We had some conversations a while ago, but the ultimate agenda was set by the county. So we'll see you Thursday.
Okay. All right. Thank you very much.
Thank you, Tony.
Other public comment this evening? One more call, public comment this evening? All right, I'll bring it back to council table, and that'll bring us down to council members' comments this evening. Council members? John?
I can wait till board reports. It's
Okay.
falls into the same.
Ward?
No comments.
Sam?
Nothing.
And Bill?
Nothing for me tonight, thank you.
All right, then I just have a few announcements that I'd like to read for you. The Maroon Creek Multi-Use Trail ribbon cutting event is going to be happening on October 29th. The whole community is invited to come celebrate the grand opening of the Maroon Creek Multi-Use Trail from 4 to 6 p.m. That's October 29th. We will meet at the ARC campus. The trail will officially be open for cyclists and pedestrians to enjoy, so bring your bikes, walking shoes, bring your family. And we will have a ribbon cutting ceremony, light refreshments, and I hope everybody can make it out. October 29th, 4 to 6, for the newest addition to our trail system. Then I want to make people aware that the Cultural Vibrancy Fellowship applications are open. This is the opportunity for adults and youth artists. The fellowship provides funding of up to $4,000 for adult artists and $750 for youth artists to support their creative endeavors. Applications close on November 21st at 5 p.m. In addition to funding, recipients will also participate in gatherings with experienced artists to foster community and collaboration. This initiative aims to enrich Aspen's vibrant art scene and nurture the talents of both emerging and established artists. If you want any more information about applying to the fellowship grants, please visit the website at aspen.gov. And another opportunity for our community, Kids First Financial Aid is now available. Kids First is now accepting applications for child care financial aid for new families. Applications are due November 1st, and financial aid will begin December 1st. Families currently receiving financial aid do not need to reapply. Again, for more information, go to the website at aspen.gov. With that, I'm looking for agenda amendments. Seeing none. City manager's comments tonight.
Thank you, Mr. Members of Council. Two things for you. First, I want to give you a quick head scene about open house that is coming up this next Wednesday. Wednesday, October 30th, 5 to 7 p.m. is Pickens County Vision 2050 open house over in the Dunaway room at the library. This is a really important opportunity because this is the kickoff of updating the comprehensive land use for Pickens County unincorporated areas, which will in turn affect the caucus area plans for the future and how the local municipality urban growth boundary are impacted. So just a heads up for you, I hope you can participate and attend that evening. A few of us on staff will be attending a session earlier in the day that's more focused on that staff level conversation of policy considerations. The areas that the county is saying the plan is focused on is climate action, economy, rural preservation, equity, and affordability. So I encourage you to be there and the community to be there to participate. There's also a survey that you can take on the Pickens County website if you're unable to make the event itself. I'm going to let John cover most of what happened last week. John and I both attended Mountain 2030 Climate Solutions Summit as well as the Colorado Association of Ski Town meetings. What I did just want to point out was something I found really interesting was a presentation by a gentleman named James Rattleleaf Sr. He is the founder of the Wakaloa Lab, and really about the regulation process with climate action and indigenous populations. This was a theme we also heard when Mayor Tory and I are in Queenstown, and I believe something that we possibly push for staff side consideration as a council goal in the future is a better understanding of that right now and what is the council's and in turn the city's policy position on acknowledgement. And so I just want to give you that little heads up, plant that seed for those of you who will be around for that goal setting process in 2025, that this might be an area to consider as you continue your work on inclusivity. And then Mountain Towns 2030, we had a lot of new faces this time around. It was great. One of the things the most was getting to know the mayor of Whistler quite a bit better. A lot of things in common between our two entities. So it was just a lot of great information sharing with Whistler on similarities we're having some of our challenges beyond climate. Thank you.
Thank you. John, if you want to under reports.
Yeah, I missed a couple words. I hope you made it to that option we missed.
I did.
Okay. I'll take it away. So I attended the Towns 2030 climate that were mentioned. I had a car pulled up there with Jonathan Godis, former mayor of Glenwood, current city council member, which was interesting to spend that much time with somebody from Glenwood who is in a similar role and the viewpoints they have about our entrance to Aspen and our airport discussion. As we drove through Wyoming going north, we couldn't see Wind River Range off to our right because it was shrouded in haze. And as we got closer to Jackson, the reason was very apparent. There was a giant forest fire that was burning very close to Jackson and impacting its air quality to the tune of when we woke up Tuesday morning, it was over 300, which is hazardous to people's health. And this was talked about during our summit, that how poignant it was that here we were talking about the climate and we were being impacted by our changing climate. And it also impacts loss of tourism dollars and outdoor recreation when people can't go outdoor in Jackson, Aspen, and all around communities. So it's a huge concern. One of the first things that was discussed was talking about municipal governments investing from four biggest banks in America, Bank of America, Wells Fargo, JP Morgan Chase, and Citibank, who are still funding fossil fuel development. I am hoping we are not invested in any of that, but I'll get an answer to that later. There was a really interesting session on renewable wood energy, and oddly enough, Vermont and New Hampshire in the lead on this particular area. So basically, let's see. Sorry. So this despite renewable wood, and the reason this came about was as a desire to something about beetle-killed forests, which is kind of subgrade for lumber. But instead of burning it outside to get rid of it, why not it as a fuel? So, and it also displaces fossil fuels and promotes sustainable management of local forests to be more resilient to wildfire and climate change. So anyway, Vermont and New Hampshire have a lot of this going on. 30% of 50 school districts in Vermont, which is 30% of their school districts, use wood chips or pellets to heat their facilities. Sullivan County, Pennsylvania has a 140,000 square foot facility being heated by wood chips. University of New Hampshire, 200,000 square foot facility. Holderness School in Plymouth, New Hampshire, 250,000 square foot facility. That's most of what I have for Mountain 2030. With CAST, we discussed transportation in Avon, which was patterned after RAFTA. They offered free fares for their new bus service, and their ridership went from 11,000 to 160,000. Those are the high points of the week. Actually, the biggest takeaway of all from our trip was the fact that we're really lucky to live in Colorado. The governments in Montana, Idaho, Utah, and Wyoming are not home rule, and they make it difficult for singular communities to do what they want. I looked around Jackson while I was there, and I'm real proud of how far ahead we are of everyone else. Thanks.
You still brought me back with you.
Oh, that's right. Thanks for reminding me. We also won this trophy, Community of the Year. I'm really proud of our staff and everybody who was there with me. Claire McLaughlin, Tim Carfs, Jaime Balbino, and Baker Casagrande. Community of the Year because of our 100% renewable electricity initiatives, and there's a huge honor. So many communities ended there, and I think many of them obviously desired this award. And I should mention two of the communities that were traveled farthest were Queenstown, New Zealand, was represented, and as Sarah pointed out, Whistler. So again, this was a very well-attended event, and I'm really proud of our staff here in the city.
Thank you. Thank you, isn't it, our EH director back there. And a lot of people had a hand in those actions, whether it was council's decisions, but a lot of staff across all utilities, environmental health. So it does take a full team to get something like this done. And, I would say we'll have work to do in our environmental portfolio here, but we do have the right people working on it.
Yep, the world is still burning, and the temperature's still rising. So thanks, EJ.
Thank you, John. Or did you?
I was looking through my I think the biggest takeaway on the last action. And the last APSHA meeting was from a board level on retirement incentives to try to incentivize people retiring in APSHA units to perhaps move out of their unit. And we had some discussions along those lines, and I was definitely interested in there was traction for it, and I think that the ball's rolling on that to figure out a way to incentivize them retirees in ownership units to move out and free up a unit. And I did have some discussions with some individuals, both on the whole and sales side, for retirement, people that have retired, their housing situations have changed. They no longer have a child living with them, that one person in a two-bedroom that doesn't qualify anymore. So there's some regulations on people, and the reason we have regulations is try to maximize our asset. And so sometimes there are hardships that people have to endure. It'd be nice if everybody in workforce housing was able to have an extra bedroom for guests to come, but that's not the goal of our community. We have continually been pressed to right size, or to have people in every bedroom. So sometimes that it doesn't satisfy people, but that's why you have rules.
Well, I hope that there are solutions to support community members staying in our community, and this isn't just, getting real-time locals who've given a lot to this community. I would also say that, whether somebody is retired or not doesn't deter their availability for volunteerism and to be a participant in our community. So, I believe in this as community housing. I know that we won't be able to use it as much as we can, but it is not a singular goal for workforce housing. And I hope that there are solutions that maintain our community and maintain these folks in our community.
Yeah, the people have the right to retire in their units. Ownership units and rental units have a little bit different qualifications. A rental unit, you still have to have the occupancy. You don't have to be working, but you have to meet the minimum occupancy. In a two-bedroom for one person would mean either you would have to rent out one of your rooms to an actual qualified person. but you are able to retire in place. We had discussions about how much community service would be the right amount to qualify, but again, once you can retire in a rental unit. And an ownership unit, you can retire in an ownership unit. We are not throwing people out of the community. The seniors in this community can offer and do offer a lot. And there are no regulations that say that you cannot retire in the units.
Thank you.
I just want to say I attended a Northwest COG meeting. It was a budget meeting. Talked a lot about elevators, and that's all I really have to say.
Okay. With that, and board reports, we'll get to our consent calendar this evening is resolution number 132. This is termination of the Community Office for Resource Efficiency Interorganizational Agreement and the draft minutes of October 8th, 2024. Are there anybody care for conversation on item 132?
No.
John?
I just want to say this is bittersweet. But I understand why we're going forward with this.
With that, I can accept a motion.
I'll make a motion to pass the consent calendar.
I'll second.
We have a motion and a second. Any further discussion? Could we have a roll call vote for the consent calendar this evening, please?
Counselor Doyle,
Yes.
Counselor Guth,
Yes.
Counselor Howenstein,
Yes.
Counselor Rose,
Yes.
Mayor Tory.
Yes. Thank you. Consent calendar passes 5-0 vote. This comes to first reading of ordinances. Our first reading is on ordinance number 19. This is a utilities updates, water service line requirements. And while they're getting set up, I could take a motion to read.
Tori, before you do that, can I?
Yeah?
We skipped over notice of call up. I know we discussed this at last
It's
meeting, but.
Action item?
it's listed under action.
Oh, I
items.
see that. I'm sorry, I missed that.
Yep,
Thank you.
no problem. A motion to read?
I move that we read ordinance 19, series 2024.
Seconded.
Motion and second. Further discussion? Could we have a roll call vote for reading ordinance number 19, please?
Counselor Doyle,
Yes.
Counselor Guth,
Yes.
Counselor Howenstein,
Yes.
Counselor Rose.
Yes.
Mayor Tory.
Yes.
Ordinance number 19, series of 2024. An ordinance of the City Council of the City of Aspen, Colorado, adding section 25.12.095 to Title 25 of the Aspen Municipal Code pertaining to lead and galvanized service line replacement.
Good evening, City Council and Mayor. Thank you for the time this evening. My name is Justin Foreman, Utilities Director. The state and federal governments revised the lead and copper rule to strengthen protections against lead in drinking water, largely driven by the crisis in Flint, Michigan. And these more stringent requirements go into effect this fall, and the Water Department believes an update to Title 25 will ensure the department's ability to continue compliance with the lead and copper rule revisions. The department would like to note that we've been monitoring for lead and copper in accordance with the Colorado primary drinking water regulations since 1992 and we have had no action level results to date. Under these lead and copper rule revisions, all public water systems must provide an initial service line inventory and a service line replacement plan to the state by October 16th. The department already fulfilled this requirement for the over 4,100 water services within the system. This new rule revisions also require public water systems to verify a statistic ratio of the unknown services and to maintain and update the service line inventory until all services are known to be non-lead, which will take several years. Therefore, the proposed ordinance includes updates to facilitate field verification of services of unknown material on private property, as well as facilitate service line replacement requirements and timeframes to enable the Water Department to continue compliance with this perpetual requirement of the state and federal government's rule revisions. The water services in the city system are in a strong position compared to other public water systems of similar size and age due to our pace of development. And at this time, only approximately 2% of all water service connections within the city system fall into a category requiring replacement based upon initial inventory. Field verification efforts could result in change to that statistic, but the department believes a limited number of the city's customers will be impacted by this ordinance. This ordinance serves to further solidify standards for materials and practices which help ensure the water utility will continue to meet and exceed state and federal regulatory standards while providing quality water and customer service. We want to thank you for your time this evening. If you have any questions or anything you'd like to add to the packet, happy to take those down. Aaron Laughlin-Mollicone will be here on November 12th for second reading.
Start with a question from Bill.
Thank you, Tori. Thanks, Justin and Tyler. First question is galvanized requiring replacement. Galvanized is assumed to be lead containing, is that correct?
So at this point, there's not definitive evidence that there was not lead in the system at some point. Right now, our knowledge is there is no lead. We have not seen lead, but at this time, we have to consider it as galvanized requiring replacement.
Okay, so on those 4 service lines, please confirm for me that your plan is to not immediately require any of those 4 accounts to replace their service lines, but upon any plumbing permit or any permit that contains a plumbing element to then require it. Did I read that correctly?
Yeah, so the first step, Bill, great question, is we'll be proactively reaching out to these customers to actually field verify to make sure that's correct. And so we have within the ordinance, we talk about replacement, where ideally it's within 2 right-of-way seasons, but we do have the ability to provide extension. We want to work with customers where we can. As we know, it can be a costly replacement of a service line.
So those 4 and any others that come up and fall into that category or a similar category from the unknown bucket are concerning to me. And here's why. Perhaps I'm drawing conclusions that are not realistic, and feel free to correct me if they are not realistic in your mind, but my assumption is that those are some of the oldest homes in Aspen that have not been redeveloped, and therefore the property owners likely are what we would consider property wealthy and cash less wealthy. And to force a water service line replacement on those type of people gives me a lot of concern. So is it accurate to assume that those 4 and any others that you might discover that have galvanized service lines are probably some of our oldest structures that have not been redeveloped?
Bill, I'd like to jump in here. Not necessarily. Our customer service lines are typically installed in the mid-'80s, 1980s. It just happened to be the plumbing material in vogue during that era. And so that's typically when we're seeing galvanized service lines. We share your concern about burdening customers that are resource limited. And I think as Justin said, we want to work with those folks and do this over an appropriate period. But I would add that folks with galvanized service lines are probably getting less than ideal water quality, if not from probably from manganese or elements like that. So we think it's in their best interest to resolve that as well.
Okay, and in those cases, is there a way to do a sample of the line material itself to determine whether there's any lead in it before we require tearing up the right-of-way to install that if there is no lead in it?
I believe the ordinance and the EPA guidelines require a physical verification. So yeah, that would be part of our process.
So to be clear, you could do a pothole, you could examine it, somehow determine whether or not it contains lead before the final conclusion is made to replace the entire service line.
Correct. If we verified the line to be an acceptable material, that would fall in a different categorization within our table, and we could, both the customer and the utility could move on with their lives. If it was physically verified to have lead or another non-standard material, then we would need to move forward with the replacement.
Okay, but there is a version of galvanized, I see the second category, galvanized iron/steel, that may not contain lead and therefore may not require a replacement. Is that correct?
Yeah, Bill, we can, as these rules are brand new, we can do some more research to make sure that we provide you the most accurate response. Believe the understanding is we need to ensure that we know that there is 100% no lead that was ever in the system or currently in the system before you could change that. So at this point, that's why they're under the assumption of galvanized requiring replacement.
Understood, given that you haven't physically verified them yet. So for second reading, I just love confirmation that we're going to take the most reasonable approach we can here. And I understand that potholing may be required for that. But if there's a way to do certain tests on the line once it's uncovered in a pothole to determine whether it truly does need to be replaced or not, I think would be appropriate.
Yeah, Bill, I think we understand your question, and I think it behooves both the utility and the customer to minimize disturbance here.
Thank you. And then last question, I think, is on the unknown category, 76 services. Is there any way to examine the service line without potholing? And is that part of our ordinance here?
So from the state requirements, they are asking for, I believe it's 2 forms, so a verification. So it will require us to pothole as well as, in our case, go in a mechanical room or crawl space or where the service line enters the property to verify it. So we need to verify it in 2 locations. So potholing, for our case, is something we need to do with the information.
Understood.
Yep.
Thanks for that. And what the potholing will be done at the city's expense, is that correct?
Yeah, if you look in the packet, Bill, we've set aside a project number for next year. There's a certain statistical percentage of that we have to go pothole. So we'll be working with, those unknowns, property owners in the upcoming off-season for right-of-way potholing.
Got it. I'm not envious of you, of the people that are going to be upset about you potholing in their yards. So understanding that some of those areas may be in the right of way, but still people will be emotional about it. So thank you for doing what you're going to do there, what you're required to do, but I'm not envious of it.
Thanks, Bill. Any other questions? Take a motion for, yes?
I'll make a motion to approve ordinance 19 on first reading.
Second.
We have a motion and a second for ordinance 19 on first reading. Any further discussion? Could we have a roll call vote, please, for ordinance number 19?
Counselor Doyle?
Yes.
Counselor Guth?
Yes.
Counselor Hallenstein?
Yes.
Counselor Rose?
Yes.
Mayor Tory?
Yes. Thank you, guys.
Thank you.
That'll bring us to our public hearings this evening. Our public hearing is one item, ordinance number 18. This is amending the city's tax code.
Good evening, Mr. Mayor, Council. Pete Strecker, your Finance Director. I'm here to present Ordinance 18 for second reading. Ordinance 18 basically has 3 main parts. The first and primary is to align the city's tax code with the state statutes for tax collection. This will allow us to move to a state collection process, which would add a lot of efficiency for the community. It will actually likely increase some tax revenue because there is better compliance even at the state level than there is just at the local level. And it also helps insulate us from kind of challenges with staffing in some of these rules. The other 2 items that this also does address, one is an administrative action to basically add the tobacco tax language from previous voter approval into our municipal code. We just have not formally adopted that in the municipal code, so this is more of a clerical item to clean up. And then the third item that's really being addressed here is increasing the food tax refund to $132 for the next cycle.
Thank you. Any questions?
No, just thank you.
None.
This is a public hearing. Are there any members of the public that wish to comment this evening on ordinance number 18? Public comment on ordinance number 18? I'll close the public comment portion of the hearing.
I'll make a motion to approve ordinance number 18.
Second.
We have a motion and a second. Any further discussion? Could we have a roll call vote, please, for ordinance number 18?
Counselor Doyle,
Yes.
Counselor Guth,
Yes.
Counselor Howenstein,
Yes.
Counselor Rose,
Yes.
Mayor Tory.
Yes. Thank you very much, Pete.
Thanks, Pete.
This next item is an action item for council members, a discussion and consideration, and I am disqualified from this conversation because of proximity. So, John, you will be leading this portion of the meeting. I'll be right outside.
You can lead it from right here, right?
You sure can.
Great.
Also, for the record, to reflect that City Attorney Jim True is also conflicted out and has left the room. So we are supported by Assistant City Attorney Kate Johnson. Thank you.
And if I may, Mayor Pro Tem, I can introduce the topic. So at the last prior regular meeting, during councilor comments, I believe it was Councilmember Howenstein made a motion for, and the issue was, the motion specifically was, did council want to receive notice under the notice of call-up provisions of our land use code on property known as 300 to 312 Hyman Avenue? It's really commonly known as the Crystal Palace. The vote on that motion was 2-2. That motion failed. I have been asked, or I was, by one or more of you, as to whether or not you can reconsider that motion or how the item could be called off. Either Councilmember Rose or Councilmember Guth can make a motion for reconsideration of that prior vote. That would bring the motion back to the table, which again is to direct staff to notice the item for call-up, and then you could afford yourself of the call-up procedures set forth in the land use code. So we would bring back, under notice of call-up, the item, and then you would have to, again, consider and vote on whether or not you wanted to actually call up the item and start that process. The only individuals, as I said, that can make the motion for reconsideration are those that, that voted against the motion, the prior motion. So it would be Councilmember Rose, Councilmember Guth. Certainly, if there's no motion, there's no further action to take on the item. Our rules, specifically city council rules, allow a motion to reconsideration at the next regular meeting after the item was voted on. That would be this meeting. It couldn't be done at any future meeting under our regular rules. So I just wanted to explain that process. Again, we noticed it because we thought there might be some desire to talk about this issue tonight, and we wanted to make sure the public was aware. So I'm happy to answer questions.
Thanks for that, Kate. Bill, you have a question?
Thanks, John. Thanks for that explanation, Kate. Is there any method to simply remand this back to HPC where there's an opportunity for all HPC members to participate, or does it have to go through the call-up procedure that you referenced prior?
It must go through the call-up procedure that I referenced. That is the only authority under the land use, other than an appeal, which could be taken by an affected property owner. Again, I don't know that an appeal actually applies in this case. I would have to research that more. But for council to sua sponte or on their own say, we want to give you a second chance at this. I think the only authority you have to do that is to take advantage of the call-up procedure. Again, to do that, the land use code requires that you first notify, staff provides notice of call-up. So you get an explanation of what the approval, what the action was that you then desire to call up. So again, the
Thank you.
motion that failed at the last meeting was to direct staff to, in fact, put a notice of call-up item for this particular item on the agenda, because it was not an item that HPC is mandated to notify you of under notice of call-up.
All right. Questions from either of you?
Yeah.
Would anyone like to make a motion?
Bill, do you want to make a motion? Or do you want me to?
Sure, I'm happy to, and would like an opportunity for a little bit of further discussion after, but I'll make a motion to direct staff to call up HPC's approval at 300, 312 through 312 Hyman Avenue.
And I would correct, if I could, Mayor Pro Tem, again, that motion was already voted on, so you can't raise it again. What it would be is a motion to reconsider the vote to notice the Crystal Palace item. So the appropriate motion to bring it back on the table would be a motion to reconsider the prior vote.
Okay, I'll rescind my prior motion. I will make a motion to reconsider the prior meeting's vote regarding HPC's approval of a substantial amendment application concerning property located at 300 through 312 Hyman Avenue.
I'll second that.
Discussion.
Yeah. Yeah, the reason why I won't speak for Bill, but the reason why I reconsider is very specific to the request of the HPC member that was missing due to a high holiday of the Jewish faith. Something I'm somewhat sensitive to, but I guess my comments are that I have not loved the process of this one, because I feel like there never should have been a meeting that night anyway, because it was Rosh Hashanah Eve. That's just a personal opinion of mine. And then since then, getting feedback from dissenting HPC members has not been my favorite thing as far as like what the process should be to call up. It's been in the paper 4 times. And I don't blame it for being such in the public eye. It is a big deal. It's just I wish the process was a little simpler when it comes to how the Historic Preservation Committee does their business, conducting on the correct dates, having the members there, and the fact that even if I disagree with them on how they vote and I wasn't paying attention to all the details, and we'll hear that in the call-up, I really respect those members and how they go about their business. So I'll call this one up and I'll support the motion at hand, but I want it to be clear, it's specifically because I don't feel like this meeting should have been on a Jewish holiday. A Jewish member missed it. She felt very slighted by that. It was a 4-3 vote, but I wish we were not in this situation in the first place, is my comments.
Bill.
Thank you. Yes, I'll echo most of what Sam said there. The one thing I will qualify is that HPC member did bring this issue to my attention prior to the meeting, and I encouraged that member to reach out to us on council and flag the issue prior, which I wish we had the opportunity to do, and requested that meeting be moved so that we didn't have to do this retroactively. And I also wanted to state I'm not calling this up because I'm in disagreement with HPC's ruling. I have a lot of faith in HPC, and whether or not they come to the same conclusion as they did prior is completely up to them. I'm not looking to overrule or give any specific direction on this in any way whatsoever. I just don't think that it was appropriate that a meeting of this magnitude, perhaps I'm speculating to a certain extent, but perhaps the most important issue for this particular HPC member in their time on the board. And I just don't think that it's reasonable that they didn't have the opportunity to participate. So for that reason and that reason only, I'd like to call this up, but I do not need a lot of information about the application in particular. I don't want to discuss the merits of it. I simply want to remand this back to HPC where there's an opportunity that's reasonable for all members to participate. And additionally on that note, but tangentially related, I still really want to work on providing opportunities for our board members, particularly HPC and P&Z, to participate remotely. Otherwise, we'll never find a meeting time that works for every single member of of our boards. But I do think that's an important
And
accommodation for us to make in this day and age. So that's it for my comments. Thank you so much.
Kate?
If I could, I just want to be clear that the motion on the table relates not to whether or not you're going to call it up. We still have to do notice, so you'll have another opportunity to discuss that issue at a later time. This is strictly if you want us to give you that notice and that opportunity to call it up. So while I understand these comments, I keep hearing those comments that I want to call it up. Again, I think that's premature in the stages of where we're at. All at this point, the motion on the table is the notice provision, so.
Yeah,
Sorry.
thank you for that clarity, but the intention is that it's called up simply from my perspective alone, simply so that HPC has an opportunity to discuss it with all members having an opportunity to participate.
Ward?
Yeah, I appreciate Bill and Sam reconsidering this issue. I think it's important to a lot of members in the community, and it's regretful that the meeting took place on a date that an observant Jew could not attend. I appreciate the member honoring their commitment and not attending, and I will support this motion to notice of call-up.
Thanks. Thanks all. Keep my comments to a minimum. Yeah, I think I heard a lot from the general public on this issue, and obviously there were some issues. I also agree with Bill and Sam that attending a meeting on Christmas Eve would be really painful, and I wouldn't like it. I think that was a mistake on HEC's part. Anyway, I guess it's time for a roll call vote.
Counselor Doyle?
Yes.
Counselor Guth?
Yes.
Counselor Hohenstein?
Yes.
Counselor Rose?
Yes.
So,
Do you want to get Tori and Jim?
well, so now what you have is an approved motion, a passed motion to reconsider, so that brings the item back to the table. So we need a vote on that item, which is to direct staff to place the item under notice of call-up at the next regular meeting.
Yeah, so we're looking for a motion to place it.
Go ahead, sir.
So,
The motion we're looking for is a motion to direct staff to have the notice of call-up scheduled for the November 12th meeting.
and technically, that motion, all this does is the motion, the original motion that Councilmember Hounstein made back to the table. So there doesn't need to be a new motion. You've essentially reconsidered it, you've put it back before you. That motion was made and seconded, and now it's up again for another vote. So again, the motion is, as Ms. Ott said, is to direct staff to notice it for call-up, the Crystal Palace project.
Quick question. Sometimes we have call-ups come on automatically, but this one we don't. Can you
Correct.
remind me the difference, why some are called up automatically and some not?
Just the way the code is written. So those provisions of code, Part B, list that HPC staff is mandated to provide you notice of call-up. Those are generally the ones you see. If you go further down into the section of code, it still preserves your right to call up any action taken under a certain section of the land use code. The action that was taken by HPC and the application that was brought forth was an action for which you can use your call-up powers to review. So again, it's not saying that we would have been mandated to notice of call-up, but again, because it falls under a certain land use code section, you have the power to call it up once you avail yourself of the notification procedures in the land use. So there is a notification requirement. The motion on the floor would direct staff to follow that notification requirement, and when it's noticed for call-up, you can then call it up. And then it would be set for yet another hearing when that actual call-up hearing will occur.
Got it. I don't think I'm alone in saying this, but this feels like a very perfect storm of why we need lawyers, I guess, so, yeah.
I will move that we direct staff to notice the city council of a call-up of this issue.
I think you can just renew your prior motion.
I will do that.
I'll second. Roll call vote.
Counselor Doyle?
Yes.
Counselor Guth?
Yes.
Counselor Hohenstein?
Yes.
Counselor Rose.
Yes.
So, thank you. I'll work with staff to get the notification on your next agenda.
Thanks, Kate.
I will also go get the mayor.
Thank you.
Yeah, it's the definition of tedious. It's been since like the meeting happened. This was
Yeah,
it's on holiday. You tried before. You tried on that.
I don't know if this is a Torah, but there's a parable. It's here for I Jew and I am. It's just arcanus.
And you have, you're gonna have a lawsuit too.
No doubt.
That's what I mean.
Well, hell of a, that's how
Hey,
Brian makes his money.
I mean,
I want,
he makes your money too. It was,
I want to thank you too for bringing that back, Sam. I appreciate it.
yeah.
You too, Bill. Thanks.
All right. I believe that was the last item on our agenda before we hear from our city attorney.
Mr. Mayor, it has been requested that council go into executive session. So at the CRS Section 24.64024F personnel, specific item of discussion involves the city manager review. Council votes to go into executive session. The executive session will be recorded, and the recording will be maintained by the clerk for a period of not less than 90 days. As always, if you vote to go into executive session, we'll convene the executive session downstairs. And the council will not return to this room to formally adjourn the meeting.
Thank you. Is there a motion?
I move that we move into executive session.
I'll second.
Motion, a second, further discussion. Could we have a roll call vote for executive session, please?
Counselor Doyle.
Yes.
Counselor Guth.
Yes.
Counselor Howenstein.
Yes.
Counselor Rose.
Yes.
Mayor Tory.
Yes. Thank you guys very much.
I do. Thank you.